Section 40, page 197. Miss Burham awaited her at the door, and she was to drive Archer to Union Square, where he could pick up a Broadway car to carry him to the office. As she settled herself in her corner, she said, "I didn't want to worry Mama by raising fresh obstacles, but how can you meet Ellen tomorrow and bring her back to the New York when you are going to Washington?" "Oh, I am not going," Archer answered. "Not going? Why, what's happened?" Her voice was as clear as a bell, and full of wifely solicitude. "The case is off, postponed." "Postponed? How odd. I saw a note this morning from Mr. Letterblair to Mama, saying that he was going to Washington tomorrow for the big patient case that he was to argue before the Supreme Court." "You said it was a patent case, didn't you?" "Well, that's it. The whole office can't go. Letterblair decided to go this morning." "Then it is not postponed," she continued, with an insistence so unlike her that he felt the blood rising to his face, as if he were blushing for her unwanted lapse from all the traditional delicacies. "No, but my going is," he answered, cursing the unnecessary explanations that he had given when he had announced his intention of going to Washington, and wondering where he had read that clever liars give details, but that the cleverest do not. It didn't hurt him half as much to tell May an untruth as to see her trying to pretend that she hadn't detected him. "I am not going till later on, luckily for the convenience of family," he continued, talking base refugee in sarcasm. As he spoke, he felt that she was looking at him, and he turned his eyes to hers in order not to appear to be avoiding them. Their glances met for a second, and perhaps let them into each other's meanings more deeply than either cared to go. "Yes, it is awfully convenient," May brightly agreed, "that you shall be able to meet Ellen after all. You saw how much Mama appreciated your offering to do it." "Oh, I am delighted to do it." The carriage stopped, and as he jumped out, she leaned to him and laid her hand on his. "Goodbye, dearest," she said, her eyes so blue that he wondered afterward if they had shone him through tears. He turned away and hurried across Union Square, repeating to himself, in a sort of inward chant, "It's all of 2 hours from Jersey City to Old Catherine's. It's all of 2 hours, and it may be more." Chapter 29. His wife's dark blue brougham, in parentheses, with the wedding varnish still on it, met Archer at the ferry, and conveyed him luxuriously to the Pennsylvania terminus in Jersey City. It was a somber, snowy afternoon, and the gas lamps were lit in the big reverberating station. As he paced the platform, waiting for the Washington express, he remembered that there were people who thought there would one day be a tunnel under the Hudson through which the trains of the Pennsylvania Railway would run straight into New York. They were the brotherhood of visionaries who, likewise, predicted the building of ships that would cross the Atlantic in 5 days, the invention of a flying machine, lightning by electricity, telephonic communication without wires, and other Arabian Night marvels. "I don't care which of their visions come true," Archer mused, "as long as the tunnel isn't built yet." In his senseless schoolboy happiness he pictured Madame Olenska's descent from the train, his discovery of her a long way off, among the throngs of meaningless faces, her clinging to his arm as he guided her to carriage, their slow approach to the wharf among sleeping horses, laden carts, vociferating teamsters, and then the struggling quiet of the ferryboat, where they would sit side by side under the snow, in the motionless carriage, while the earth seemed to glide away under them, rolling to the other side of the sun. It was incredible, the number of things he had to say to her, and in what eloquent order they were forming themselves on his lips. The clanging and groaning of the train came nearer, and it staggered slowly into the station, like a prey-laden monster into its lair. Archer pushed forward, elbowing through the crowd, and staring blindly into the window after window of the high-hung carriages. And then suddenly he saw Madame Olenska's pale and surprised face close at hand, and had again the mortified sensation of having forgotten what she looked like. They reached each other, their hands met, and he drew her arm through his. "This way, I have the carriage," he said. After that it all happened as he had dreamed. He helped her into the brougham with her bags, and had afterward the vague recollection of having properly reassured her about her grandmother, and given a summary of a bifurt situation. In parentheses, he was struck by the softness of her "poor Regina." Meanwhile, the carriage had worked its way out of the coil about the station, and they were crawling down the slippery incline to the wharf, menaced by swaying coal carts, bewildered horses, disleaved express wagons, and an empty hearse. Ah, that hearse! She shut her eyes as it passed, and clutched at Archer's hand. If only it didn't mean, poor granny. Oh no, she is much better. She is all right, really. "There, we have passed it," he exclaimed, as if that made all the difference. Her hand remained in his, and as the carriage lurched across the gangplank onto the ferry he bent over, unbuttoned her tight brown glove, and kissed her palm as if he had kissed a relic. She disengaged herself with a faint smile, and he said, "You didn't expect me today." "Oh no. I meant to go to Washington to see you. I've made all my arrangements. I very nearly crossed you in the train." "Oh," she exclaimed, as if terrified by the narrowness of their escape. "Do you know, I hardly remembered you." "Hardly remembered me? I mean, how shall I explain? It's always so. Each time you happen to me all over again." "Oh yes, I know. "Does it do I to you?" he insisted. She nodded, looking out of the window. Ellen. She made no answer, and he sat in silence, watching her profile grow indistinct against the snow-streaked dusk beyond the window. What had she been doing in all those 4 long months? He wondered. How little they knew of each other, after all. The precious moments were slipping away, but he had forgotten everything that he had meant to say to her, and could only helplessly brood on the mystery of their remoteness and their proximity, which seemed to be symbolized by the fact of their sitting so close to each other, and yet being unable to see each other's faces. "What a pretty carriage! Is it May's?" she asked, suddenly turning her face from the window. "Yes. It was May who sent you to fetch me then. How kind of her." He made no answer for a moment. Then he said explosively, "Your husband's secretary came to see me the day after we met in Boston." In his brief letter to her, he had made no allusion to Emery's visit, and his intention had been to bury the incident in his bosom. But her reminder that they were in his wife's carriage provoked him to an impulse of retaliation. He would see if she liked his reference to Reverie any better than he liked hers to May, as on certain other occasions when he had expected to shake her out of her usual composure. She betrayed no sign of surprise, and at once he concluded, "He writes to her, then." "Reverie went to see you?" "Yes, didn't you know?" "No," she answered simply. "And you are not surprised?" She hesitated. "Why would I be? He told me in Boston that he knew you, that he would meet you in England, I think. Ellen, I must ask you one thing." "Yes." "I wanted to ask it after I saw him, but I couldn't put it in a letter. It was Reverie who helped you to get away, when you left your husband?" His heart was beating suffocatingly. Will she meet this question with the same composure? "Yes, I owe him a great debt," she answered, without the least tremor in her quiet voice. Her tone was so natural, so almost indifferent that Archer's turmoil subsided. Once more she had managed, by her sheer simplicity, to make him feel stupidly conventional, just when he thought he was flinging convention to the winds. "I think you're the most honest woman I have met," he exclaimed. "Oh no, but probably one of the least fussy," she answered, a smile in her voice. "Call it what you like. You look at things as they are." "Oh, I have had to. I have had to look at the Gorgon." "Well, it hasn't blinded you. You have seen that she is just an old bogey like all the others. She doesn't blind one, but she dries up one's tears." The answer checked the pleading on Archer's lips. It seems to come from depths of experience beyond his reach. The slow advance of the ferryboat had ceased, and her brows bumped against the piles of the slip with a violence that made the brougham stagger, and flung Archer and Madame Olenska against each other. The young man, trembling, felt the pressure of her shoulder, and passed his arm about her. "If you are not blind, then you must see this can't last." "What can't?" "Our being together, and not together." "No, you ought not to have come today," she said in an altered voice. And suddenly she turned, flung her arms about him, and pressed her lips to his. At the same moment the carriage began to move, and a gas lamp at the head of the slip flashed its lights into the window. She drove away, and they sat silent and motionless while the brougham staggered through the congestion of carriages about the ferry landing. As they gained the street, Archer began to speak hurriedly. "Don't be afraid of me. You needn't squeeze yourself back into your corner like that. A stolen kiss isn't what I want. Look, I'm not even trying to touch the sleeve of your jacket. Don't suppose that I don't understand your reasons for not wanting to let this feeling between us dwindle into an ordinary hole-and-corner love affair. I couldn't have spoken like this yesterday, because when we have been apart, and I'm looking forward to seeing you, every thought is burnt up in a great flame. But then you come, and you are so much more than I remembered, and what I want of you is so much more than an hour or two every now and then, with wastes of thirsty waiting between, that I can sit perfectly still beside you, like this, with that other vision in my mind, just quietly trusting to it to come true." For a moment she made no reply. Then she asked, hardly above a whisper, "What do you mean by trusting to it to come true?" "Why, you know it will, don't you?" "Your visions of you and me together?" She burst into a sudden hard laugh. "You choose your place well, to put it to me. Do you mean because we are in wife's brougham? Shall we get out and walk, then? I don't suppose you'd mind a little snow?" She laughed again, more gently. "No, I shan't get out and walk, because my business is to get to Granny's as quickly as I can, and you will sit beside me, and we will look, not at visions, but at realities." "I don't know what you mean by realities. The only reality to me is this." She met the words with a long silence, during which the carriage rolled down an obscure side street, and then turned into the searching illumination of Fifth Avenue. End of the section, page 203.